What is up, guys? It's Mason once again from PMChess, and today I have another analysis video for you, and this promises to be a special one because it was requested by our very own FIDE Master Hasford. But before we get into the game, as always, let us know down in the comments what you think about the videos we've been doing. If you have any requests, any problems, any issues, let us know. We'd really like to hear from you. As always, we also stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays at twitch.tv/pen_mason. On Saturdays we stream on both YouTube and Twitch, so you can check us out at PMChess on YouTube. And finally, we will be streaming the Olympiad games, most especially Ghanaian games, but if there are any other interesting games that we find out, we'll review them. If they are African games or even any kind of games, then we'll be reviewing them. So join us whenever there's a game, and we'll be live regardless of our streaming schedule. Okay, so let's get straight into the game. Here we have Hasford plays as black in this game, and he plays against a 2300 opponent whose name we do not know. We have d4, d5, bishop to f4, e6, e3, bishop to d6, bishop to g3, knight to f6, knight to f3, and c5. This position already resembles the London system. I didn't expect this game to look in the exact same as the London. I thought I'd get a different game. But yeah, at this point in time, this is basically a London system. And after c5, there are many ideas white can play here. c3, knight b to d2, bishop to d3, castles kingside is one of them. There's also just knight to c3, developing the bishop to e2 before castling kingside. These are all basic ideas you can get in the London system. So I believe that, okay, yeah, white is fine with any of them. He can play solid and then still get a good position against black. But here, white decides to play more actively with the move c4. c4 I don't like because of the pawn tension it creates, first off, and also the chances it gives for black. Because if you don't have a very good understanding of the pawn tension or the positions in particular, black has a very good chance. You could say black is even equal here, which is what black aims for in the beginning of a chess game. But it makes sense why he makes this move, because after c4, you realize that it's the relationship between the knight and the c pawn is that it's best if the pawn is ahead of the knight rather than held back by the knight. So by playing more actively with c4, he gets to develop the knight to c3 and still have access with his queen to c4, contrary to if he just played c3. So it makes sense why he plays that. It's not a bad move, but I just feel like it's more comfortable for white to play a move like this. So now we have bishop takes g3, h takes g3, queen to b6. We've discussed this idea already. It puts pressure on b2 and at the same time puts pressure on the central squares. Queen to c2, defending the b pawn. And also it shows quite great insight, especially concerning this file. And you will see that in the moves to come, white shows a very great understanding, because normally you'd want to develop your queen to b3, provoking a trade. And if ever black trades, white is better off, because now he has control of the semi-open file. And if there were ever trades all around this central squares, white controls more of the center than black, and white will basically be having an okay position. Okay, so after queen to c2, we instead have c takes d4 and knight takes d4. And usually knight takes d4 is a bad idea because your opponent has the resource of e5, which black actually plays. But the difference here is white has this file under his control with his queen, and it gives him the upper hand, especially after trades. So after pawn takes here, you realize that black can't take this knight easily because of queen takes. If ever black plays pawn takes, we have queen takes, and if ever the queen defends, queen takes, king takes, and you can see that this king is stuck in the center. White can make some active moves, get his pieces into the game, and cause black some discomfort as he can't castle in this moment. So yeah, very good insight by white to see something like this. So actually what should have been played by white here is not e5 but just knight to c6. And let's just assume the same traits. Okay, this is the position we have with this isolated queen's pawn, but then a more evenish position for black to play. So after c to d5, we have castles by kingside. Black identifies that he's having these problems on his back rank and decides to solve it. Knight to b3, saving himself. The pawn was attacking it. And now e4. Why e4? This pawn is on pre, but if this knight ever leaves the squares, white has queen takes, and there's so much mounting pressure on black's king side. So rather than play with fire, he decides to just seal off the squares, though he gives black this d4 square as an output for his knight or any of his pieces. We have bishop to c4, defending the d5 pawn, and then bishop to f5. You might wonder about bishop to f5. One, it defends this pawn against the incoming knight to c3, and also it helps black defend his knight more actively to d7. Ideally, the knight would have developed a6 to c7, or he might have tried to develop knight b to d7 immediately, but then the bishop is stuck here. So he decides to develop the bishop first before trying to bring his knight out. Okay, so we have knight to c3, like we said, attacking the pawn. Knight b to d7. Knight to d4, attacking the bishop, forcing it back. Bishop to g6, and then rook to h4. So let's look at the position here. What are the pegs for both of them? Right now, white has a very good control of the center, especially concerning this pawn. With a move like, let's say, rook to d1, he has a high chance of making this pawn a bone in black's throat, and basically black will be in trouble here. So I feel like maybe white is very much okay in this position. It might be drawn, but it just looks strangely because of the bad bishop here and the difficulty for this knight to develop. Though if you look at this part in particular, you realize that this d3 square becomes an output for this knight, and that's a very good thing going on. So both white and black have some pegs in their position, but concerning this rook to h4 move, it doesn't make much sense, because unless, of course, maybe what I try to figure out is that after king castles, you try and form a battery here, and maybe try and get your queen in here to start something on the king side. But it doesn't seem like something possible now, because black is in time to cause some trouble or some chaos on black sides, on white side of the board as well. So rook to h4 doesn't seem to be like a move to prep a king side attack. It also looks to be a move to capture this e4 pawn, and that wouldn't make any sense, because no matter how white captures on this square, based on the position of this queen, in that it's being x-rayed by the bishop, any trades there favor black. So just to illustrate this, let's play h6 here. So after knight takes, rook takes, you realize that this is actually just good for black, in that the position of the queen is bad. So maybe before playing something like rook h4, you might have wanted to play something like queen to b3. And the same theory goes, if the queens are traded off, white is in a better position. You should plan how the queen trade is going to be. So I feel like rook h4 is an inaccuracy, in that white seems to be getting too much. It's greedy for this pawn. Castles, king side or queen side is fine, but then aiming for this pawn doesn't seem to result in much. Okay, so now black has the opportunity to play rook a to c8, and you can realize that he has so much pressure on this file. He controls this file. If ever this bishop or knight move, this queen is on pre. So you realize that black is now having his opportunity to make problems for white. We have queen to b3 and queen to c7, declining the trade. We've explained why the trade is bad for black. Now we have bishop back. Of course, it would have been lost if queen takes on that square, so he has to save the bishop. We have knight to c5, attacking the queen. Then queen to d1. a6, preventing any of the knight moves to any of these squares and harassing the queen. Rook to c1, basically having an x-ray, putting the rook on an open file, and at the same time having an x-ray on the queen, and hence why black plays queen to b6, also putting pressure on this pawn. We have b3, and now queen to a5 with a pin on the king. So now black pins this knight, and in this position white plays queen to d2, and now black has chances to take the game into his hands. So I want you guys to pause the video here for a while and try and figure out what black can do to give him an edge in the position. Not winning, but give him an inch in the position. Okay, so the move here is knight takes d5. Now you might be wondering, don't I just have knight takes here? Yes, you do, but then that loses the game for you. Why? We have knight to d3 check, and note we are going to really exploit this pawn, this pin. We have bishop takes, and before pawn takes, the intermezzo move rook takes. If this queen was freed, this would have been an easy capture. And now the back rank is compromised, so now the king has no choice but to play king to e2, and after e takes d5, you realize that white is in a very dominant position against white. So of course, there's no way that white would fall for it and take it, but that's the idea. That's one of the ideas behind this move. You can also add so much more pressure to white's position because you're having more attackers on his squares. So I believe that will be very winning for black. But here black misses the idea and plays but yes, so rather than queen to d2, the best move would have been king to f1, leaving the pin, if I forget that. So after queen to d2, we black plays knight to d3 check, which is a good move, but it's slightly inaccurate. And after this move, we have bishop takes, pawn takes, and now this pawn is its position is quite sketchy. You can't. There's not much you can give to this pawn. I don't see the value of this pawn as that now. It's not as deadly as it was in the past, and it seems like it's susceptible to many attacks in the future. Maybe something like rook here or getting your knight somewhere to this square. It's strange. But in this position, nothing happens, which is the downfall of this game. Don't worry, you didn't waste your time. You got some very nice ideas that you can add into your own games or your own play style. But yeah, I don't know if in this position they agreed to a draw. I've asked FIDE Master Hasford for confirmation. Whatever he lets me know, I'll place it or I'll pin it in the comments or in the description somewhere over there. So yeah, in this position the game just ends. I have no idea who won, who lost, or anything. I feel like I wasted your time, but it's actually a very nice game for me because, as always, when I see these positions, I can incorporate them into my games and my own play style. And also, this game was a special request, so I had joy doing something for one of our viewers. Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching. I have been Mason. Check out our streams Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays, Mondays and Wednesdays at 10 o'clock p.m. GMT. And Saturdays at 12 p.m. GMT. We stream at twitch.tv/pen_Mason, and we'd always like to see you guys there and play some games against you. As always, we'll be streaming the Olympiads, so catch us out, catch us live, and let's have some fun times discussing the games. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.